Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me commend you for this noble effort. There's a reason why it hasn't happened since 2002. As Ranking Member Meeks mentioned, we worked together on state authorizations, but not a full scale. Oftentimes the Senate is the problem, even if we can get it through the House. But I do think it's important because, you know, when the diplomats fail, we get a war. That's what this committee is all about. This committee has the authority, the obligation to deal with issues of war and peace. I've often thought, why cannot this committee pass an authorization like the National Defense Authorization Bill that the Armed Services Committee passes? Instead, about 25% of the NDAA comes out of this committee. So we use that vehicle to pass our authorizations. But if we fail to authorize, then we do abdicate our Article 1 responsibilities. And we also don't have the proper capabilities to do the oversight that's necessary. If we authorize something within state, whoever's in the executive, it makes it more difficult for the executive to act against the Article 1 branch of Congress, no matter whether that's a Democrat or Republican administration. And it is the Congress acting under its constitutional responsibilities. So again, I applaud you for this. I think this is going to be a healthy discussion. I guess my question, and lastly, I have to say, just like the NDAA, it will be impossible for us to pass a state authorization, both House and Senate, if it's not bipartisan. And that's true with most legislation. In my 20 years, is you can have messaging bills, but if you really want to get things done, especially on an authorization like this, I think the NDAA is a good model to examine where House and Senate, bipartisan, work together to get a good piece of legislation done. But Mr. Chairman, we don't have to rely on the NDAA to do all of our authorizations of state. And that's what has happened since 2002, and it is a difficult process. And I want to ask all three of you, in the limited time, what are the long-term risks to our U.S. global leadership if Congress continues to operate without a regular reauthorization of the State Department?
I'll start, Congressman. Without your input into a tightly organized Department of State, it will not reach its potential to coordinate, which is its core purpose, military power, economic power, values, and our partners and friends around the world into a coherent effort to advance the safety and the prosperity of the American people, which is the core goal. The military puts great effort into this in a way that, having been in both institutions as a career officer, I don't see to the same degree in the State Department. Anything you folks here can do to help that would be much appreciated.
If I could give a good example, Mr. Chairman, is under the first Trump administration, Mike Pompeo set up an office to deal with emergency contingencies in response to what he foresaw happening in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the Biden administration eliminated that office. So when Afghanistan fell in a disastrous way, that office was not there to respond. And you know why? Because it wasn't authorized by Congress. Any more thoughts?
No, I think that's an excellent example. I would, in addition to what you've said and what Jim has said, I would say that one of the problems also is that the State Department tends to go on autopilot when it hasn't gotten the direction that it needs, and that's a natural bureaucratic instinct, but it needs to be fought all the time. And I think the annual authorization process can help make sure that the State Department is actually changing as events change and as requirements change. I think the more fundamental thing in my mind is that the longer the State Department goes without an authorization bill, the more detached it is from the will of the American people. And so we need to make sure that Congress is playing its role to wake us up and hold us accountable. I'm no longer, when I say us, it's no longer me, but I mean the organization I was part of for my entire adult life, and responsive, and that we have an opportunity also to tell our story as to why we want to do things a certain way, and have that debate with the authorizers and appropriators.
My time's expired with the excellent point about the will of the American people. Otherwise, it's acting in an autocratic way without the will of the American people.